There's a 9-year-old bug in the Linux kernel that was publicly disclosed last week. A 732-byte Python script exploits it to give any unprivileged local user a root shell. It works on essentially every Linux distribution built since 2017, it leaves no trace on disk, and it works every single time. And as of yesterday, CISA confirmed it being actively exploited in the wild. If you run Linux, and if you're watching this channel, you probably do, you're going to want to check this out. Copyfail is the name that researchers gave to CVE 2026-31431, which is a logic bug in the Linux kernel's cryptographic subsystem disclosed on April 29th by the security team at ZetCode and Theory. And here's what makes it different from most kernel vulnerabilities. Most privilege escalation bugs require winning a race condition. You have to time your exploit perfectly to hit a narrow window when the kernel is in a vulnerable state. And copyfail has no race condition. The exploit works deterministically, meaning every single time you run the 732-byte script on a vulnerable system, you get root with no timing required. The exploit works by chaining 3 parts of the kernel together in a way that none of them were designed to handle. The kernel's AEAD cryptographic interface, the AFALG socket API, and the splice system call. The chain triggers a controlled 4-byte write into a page cache, basically the shared memory where the kernel keeps frequently accessed files. By corrupting 4 bytes of a set UID binary like user bin SUSE in memory, an attacker forces the system to grant them a root shell. The bug was introduced through 3 separate individually harmless kernel changes made in 2011, 2015, and 2017. No single change was a vulnerability on its own, but their combination was. The fix, mainline kernel commit on screen, reverts the 2017 performance optimization that created the dangerous combination. It's a one-line fix for a 9-year exposure. So let's be clear about what this is and what this isn't. Copyfail is a local privilege escalation. That means an attacker needs to already have an unprivileged shell on your system before they can use it. It can't be exploited remotely on its own. For a single user home lab where you're the only person with access, the practical risk is lower. If you're the only one who can SSH in and you're already the admin, this doesn't meaningfully change your exposure at all. But chain it with anything that gives an attacker the initial foothold, say a web application running as an unprivileged service account, an SSH credential stolen through a supply chain attack that we've been covering, a compromised CI runner, or a malicious pull request executed in an automated pipeline, and root is guaranteed. Microsoft Defender's threat intelligence team put it clearly. The vulnerability's broad applicability has caused widespread concern. They're seeing preliminary exploitation activity and expect it to increase significantly over the next few days. CISA added copyfail to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog yesterday and ordered U.S. federal civilian agencies to patch by May 15th. That's the official confirmation that the exploitation is no longer theoretical. When copyfail was first disclosed, the recommendation was to add a mod probe rule to block the vulnerable module. That said, the mitigation does not work on RHEL-Family distribution. This includes Red Hat Enterprise Linux, AlmaLinux, Rocky Linux, Cloud Linux, and CentOS Stream. On these distributions, the ALGIF AEAD module is compiled directly into the kernel rather than as a loadable module, and the modprobe.d rule cannot block something that isn't a separate module. The rm mod command runs without errors. The system appears to have applied the mitigation, and it hasn't. You're still fully vulnerable. If you've applied this mitigation on a RHEL-Family system and felt relieved, please stop and address this today. The correct mitigation for RHEL-Family distributions is to blacklist the module at the boot using Grubby. After reboot, verify that it took effect by running the command on screen. And you should see this on your screen as the output. The good news is this mitigation does not affect dmcrypt, LUKS, KTLS, IPsec, SSH, OpenSSL, or GNU TLS. For the vast majority of home lab setups, it is completely safe to apply. So here's where things stand as of today. Debian is fully patched across all supported releases. Debian 13 Trixie is fixed in kernel 6.12.85-1, Debian 12 Bookworm in 6.1.170-1, and Debian 11 Bullseye in 5.10.251-3. If you run Debian, run sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade and reboot. Ubuntu is patched. Ubuntu 26.04 and later kernels are not affected at all, and earlier Ubuntu releases have patches available through the standard security repository. AlmaLinux shipped patches on May 1st ahead of Red Hat. Run the command on screen and reboot. Fedora, SUSE, and Cloud Linux are already patched, so apply your standard system updates. With Red Hat Enterprise Linux, patches are still pending as of today, so apply the grubby mitigation that we discussed earlier if you're on RHEL. So now let's quickly talk about Proxmox. Proxmox VE9 running kernel 6.17.13-2-PVE remains vulnerable even on the latest PVE manager release. The Proxmox kernel has not yet been patched. If you run Proxmox, apply the mod probe mitigation, and note that Proxmox uses a Debian-based kernel, so the mod probe approach does work here, unlike the RHEL-family systems. Also, I will have a blog post linked in the video description so that you can grab these commands and run them on your system as you need to, depending on what version of Linux you're running. So one detail from this story worth mentioning because it connects to something broader. Copyfail was discovered by Theory using Zentcode, their AI-powered offensive security system. The researchers say that it took one operator prompt and about an hour of scan time against the Linux kernel's crypto subsystem. No manual code review and no specialized testing infrastructure, just one prompt. This is the second critical vulnerability in the past week that was found with AI-assisted tooling. Wiz found CVE 2026-3554, the GitHub RCE we covered in a previous video, using an MCP-based AI tool for automated binary analysis of GitHub's closed-source binaries. So the pattern here is clear. AI is collapsing the time it takes to find vulnerabilities. What once took weeks of manual code review is now taking an hour. The disclosure to exploitation window is getting shorter, and the time between researchers find something and attackers are cashing in is also getting considerably shorter as well. Now look, this isn't an argument against AI-assisted security research. This is the right use for these tools, but it does mean the urgency of patching is higher than it's ever been. Copyfail is a serious vulnerability, and it's been in the kernel for 9 years. And it's being actively exploited right now, and the widely circulated mitigation is silently broken on RHEL-family systems. But the action items are simple. If you're on Debian, Ubuntu, AlmaLinux, Fedora, SUSE, or Cloud Linux, update your kernel and reboot. If you're on RHEL, apply the grubby mitigation today and wait for an official patch. And if you're on Proxmox, apply the mod probe mitigation and watch for a patched kernel. If you applied the mod probe mitigation on a RHEL-family system and thinking you were protected, apply the grubby mitigation today. Sources for everything we talked about in today's video will be available in the video description, along with a blog post that will have a lot of the commands that you can run to help secure your systems more easily. But I think with all of that said, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank you guys for spending a few minutes of your day with me here today, and I'll talk to you in the next video.